Hello, today on The Truths we are talking about two Australian citizens, Andrew Chan and Myuran Sukumaran, who are about to be executed in Indonesia for drug smuggling. But what's the real reason they're being killed? Is it a symbol? Is it necessary? Are they rehabilitated? And what's the point of punishment? Here is some truths.
For 9 years, Myuran Sukumaran and Andrew Chan have spent every waking hour doing what they can to avoid the journey to the island.
Once they go on that island, execution is a near certainty. 72 hours after arriving on the island, most people are dead. What Andrew Chan and Myuran Sukumaran actually did was get caught with a substantial amount of heroin on their way back to Australia. Now, Indonesia has real heavy drug laws. People that they catch there are executed, but that's not the full story of Indonesia and drugs. The reality is that geographically, Indonesia is situated directly between the countries where heroin is produced and grown and the market for it. So in many ways, Indonesia's geographical situation makes them the perfect transitional nation for heroin smuggling. The other thing that's important is Indonesia is a country that's economically interesting. Indonesia's economy is dependent upon the tobacco industry, which has proven to be extremely profitable. It's not uncommon to see Indonesian children smoking cigarettes. Like, for example, this little guy.
Aldi Rizal started smoking when he was just 18 months old. Now he's hooked and on 40 a day. Smoking
Regulations in Indonesia are few and far between. You know, like in our countries, they're moving on to packaging bans, advertising bans. That's not the case in Indonesia. Obviously, smoking's as bad for you if you are an Indonesian as you are a British person, but because the massive smoking companies can get away with the kind of advertising and packaging that they used to here 20 years ago, they don't go, should we give these people a 20-year lung reprieve? No, fuck them. We can sell fags there. Let's get on and do it. Also, there's epic police corruption in Indonesia. There's many examples of the police collaborating with drug dealers, the police facilitating drug dealers, police and security forces providing drugs within prisons. So why is it then that in the case of these two Australian men, the most severe measures are being deployed? If you consider prison to have a function, and people say that it does, it's about rehabilitation, it's about serving your time, then to execute these two men seems particularly cruel because both Andrew and Myuran have demonstrably changed since they've been in prison. Myuran has become an artist and runs all kind of art classes. Andrew Chan has become very spiritual and runs all sorts of rehabilitative programs, which isn't easy to do in the kind of prisons that they have in Indonesia. We're not talking about an open prison somewhere in the British countryside where you've got easy access to paints and Rolf Harris wandering around dishing out Twixes and dime bars to everybody. This is hardcore Indonesian nicks. I sent a couple of tweets on this story yesterday because as a recovering drug addict and someone who believes in rehabilitation and the possibility of change, I was affected by the plight of these two men facing death for making a mistake, but really they're being executed to make a point. To make a point that the President Widodo that's come in there, like successive Indonesian presidents, demonstrate their power by increasing executions when they come to the presidency as a way of going, look, Indonesia's not just this crazy playground stopover point for drug traders and smugglers where the police collaborate with drug dealers and smuggling. If it were, we wouldn't be killing all these Australians, would we? It's a gesture. It's an empty gesture. It's a mask and a veil that conceals the corruption of Indonesia and the true nature of international drug smuggling. That drug addiction and drug smuggling is an essential black economy. It's part of our global culture. On some level, the legal world must be benefiting from it because it couldn't carry on to this degree if they didn't. In countries like Portugal, that for 15 years now has decriminalised drug use, the problems associated with drug addiction have dramatically fallen. Crime has fallen, HIV has fallen by 50%. This had an incredible impact. We have that information in countries like England, countries like Indonesia, countries like America, but by and large we don't act on it because drugs is a symbol. Drugs is a symbol that the establishment uses to demonstrate its authority and power.
I think what a lot of people are going on is like how we were 8 years ago. I mean, how do you say it? We were just like 9 kids pretty much, yeah. Like, I mean, we were all big kids, yeah, but we were all stupid, we were all immature.
You can't always just condemn the last possible consequence of massive problems. The problems like international drug smuggling These lads didn't design it. Hey, do you know what would be a good idea? Drug smuggling. They're a symptom of a much bigger problem, and that bigger problem involves governments and corporations. And unless they change, unless Indonesia looks at its real relationship with drugs, how it really facilitates the drug trade, unless countries like Australia, America and the UK look at why have we got drug epidemics, why have we got hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are dependent on substances, unless those problems are addressed, then these problems will continue. Therefore, the execution of those men is symbolic.
We all make some silly mistakes, and you know, unfortunately for me, I've made a silly mistake that could possibly cost me my life.
The idea of killing these men means that we are part of a culture that's more brutal and more immoral than any kind of drug smuggling culture. That's a sort of a peccadillo compared to the unnecessary execution of repentant humans.
Andrew Chan found religion in jail. He has counselled other prisoners facing execution.
The Daily Mail ran the story. Once in a while, I like to look at the comments. Telling it as it is, Birmingham. More codswallop from Brand. He likes to believe he's more intelligent than Professor Hawkins. I did say that, but it was a joke. Drug dealers kill thousands of people a year, and these two try to facilitate those murders. More complicated than that, as we have discussed, telling it as you think it might be. They knew the law, they broke the law, they get to pay their consequences. Bat out, Russell, you complete and utter prat. I mean, I suppose, telling it as it is, Birmingham, if you see society just as entirely atomised, where none of us have any culpability, none of us have any interconnection, where people are condemned on the basis of their actions, where there is no clemency, no forgiveness, no possibility of redemption, rehabilitation or change, then you're right. But I don't want to live in that world. There's loads of these ones. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You should know the rules before you try and pull the job off. Who's that from? Danny Dyer?
I'm trying to do something positive with my life. I'm trying to be somebody who my parents could be proud of.
If you, like me, think that this is disgraceful that President Widodo is executing these men and that it's a gesture, a symbol, and an unnecessary execution of men that have learned their lesson, then come to this exhibition. There's an art exhibition on Monday at Amnesty's headquarters of Myuran's art. Here are the details. Sign this petition, and also there's an interesting thing that we can all do, because Liverpool FC are sponsored by Garuda, the national airline of Indonesia. Please let Liverpool FC know that you do not support the execution in Indonesia of men that are clearly rehabilitated, and that you would like Liverpool FC to question their relationship with the national airline, and let's all of us find compassion in our hearts for people that may very well have done wrong but have served a sentence, particularly in an instance where their execution is like a human sacrifice to conceal the true nature of Indonesia's economic dependence on drug smuggling, their dependence on the tobacco industry, the willingness to sacrifice innocent lives and the lives of their citizens through exposing them to tobacco and through dishonest information around drugs. That's some true news. Subscribe here.
Nose is a tool that is abused to fool you and to leave you scared and confused. Truths is like the nose. If the nose was true, I want some truths. Let's have some truths.